Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Trustees Theater for SCAD deFINE Art 2025. My name is Jonas Song, and I'm a master's student in jewelry design from Bend, Oregon. I'm honored to introduce this evening's honored guest and award honoree, Zanele Muholi. Zanele Muholi's exhibition opened this week at the SCAD Museum of Art, and I encourage you to check out this stunning show if you haven't yet. Zanele Muholi is a visual activist, humanitarian, and art practitioner whose work documents and celebrates the lives of Black LGBTQIA+ communities. Born in Umlazi, Durban, and now based in Cape Town, Muholi studied advanced photography at the Market Photo Workshop in Newtown, Johannesburg, and completed an MFA at Ryerson University in Toronto. Beginning in 2006, Muholi responded to the continuing discrimination and violence faced by South Africa's LGBTQIA+ community by photographing Black, lesbian, and transgender individuals, resulting in the ongoing portrait project Faces and Phases. Their mission was to rewrite a Black, queer, and trans visual history of South Africa for the world to know of our resistance and existence at the height of hate crimes in South Africa and beyond. The more recent series, Somnyama Nugonyama, Hail the Dark Lioness, shifts the lens with Muholi becoming both the participant and the image maker. Muholi invests in community outreach and youth development through the Muholi Arts Institute in Cape Town, as well as other projects that facilitate access to art spaces for youth. Their works have been exhibited at a number of international biennales and leading art museums, including, most recently, a major retrospective at the Tate Modern. Muholi's many accolades include the ICP Spotlights Award and Francis Chevalier de l'Ordre des Arts et Lettres. Let's take a look.
My name is Zanele Muholi. I call myself a visual activist. I capture videos. I capture the moods that maybe other people cannot see.
You were small.
Most of the work that I do touches on the element of humanity, on activism, and I use photography as means of articulation. The work that I produce is based on experience, it's work that is biographical, and it's also ethnographical, that speaks to a kind of people, a community that I'm part of.
Now, please welcome SCAD deFINE Art honoree, Zanele Muholi.
Unbelievable. This is amazing and happening from this other part of town. I'm from South Africa and I'm receiving an honor from SCAD, which is in the south. What's the best period to be alive like right now? I'm inspired and honored by this college means a whole lot to me. And I like to say that I'm truly grateful because not everyone get to be seen in this way. And also to say that this piece of artwork is so dear, and it is not for me, but it's for many individuals. The participants who are featuring in my work, this is for them. Our families back at home, this is for them. The communities in which we are part, who are deserving, and unfortunately, they do not get these opportunities. I like to say they are seen somewhere, somehow, because our voices matter, our race matter, and the work that we do educate so many individuals out there who might feel invisible or displaced due to so many, due to so many positions in which they find themselves in. I didn't really prepare a speech because I didn't even think of like, how will I behave when I'm standing in front of you? How do I even handle the glass piece, in front of all of you? But to say that having been here and visited different departments, being at the fibers, being at the photo department, being at the film school, being at your Hollywood, it really confirmed that we are really doing this, and people are listening, people are looking, people are really and truly looking forward to your creative works. And I'm inspired by all of you. I'm moved by many young students that I've met here at SCAD, and I so wish that I could one day see myself exhibiting alongside many creatives who are in this room. I could say it's not over yet, the beat goes on. Let's continue with this work because the world is waiting anxiously, especially speaking at this period, where people are being displaced, where people are being expelled from schools because of their gender and sexuality, where people are evicted from their homes, where mothers and fathers and congregants and friends divorce their loved ones due to how people express themselves and how people live their lives without interfering with the homophobes and transphobes piece. So I think it's me saying basically, let us keep on loving each other, and if we do not understand what people are doing, the work that they are producing, if we do not understand it, let's please, ask questions and do not violate those who are trying to make sense of their living and their lives. All in all, to all the teams here at SCAD, all the departments, to the teams that decided to honor us, like I said, this award is not for me, but for all of us back at home, different corners of Africa, people to have hope and know that it's possible. I'd like to say thank you greatly. Thank you so much, and hope we'll come together as collaborators one day to ensure that we continue with this kind of education for the generations to come, to keep the visual archive alive, and also to ensure that all that we do get to be published for educational purposes and more. Thank you so much.
And now, for tonight's In Conversation, Zanele is joined this evening by Phyllis Hollis. Phyllis Hollis is a patron of the arts and an advocate for underrepresented artists, women artists, and art professionals. Launched in January 2020, her podcast and social media platform @Cerebral_Women offers unique content created to promote visual artists. Hollis is a trustee of Guildhall of East Hampton, New York, and formerly a trustee of Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture, as well as Art Table. She's a member of the MoMA Black Arts Council Executive Committee and the American Friends of the Louvre. In addition to her leadership and advocacy, Hollis has more than 30 years of experience in institutional investment banking and is the former CEO of a boutique broker-dealer in New York. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Zanele Muholi and Phyllis Hollis.
Shall we begin? Yes?
Yes.
First question. When did you become interested in photography? And when did you find the need and recognize the importance to be a visual activist?
Photography came into my life very early, but I started photographing later in life after working at different companies in South Africa. Owning a photo camera was something else that one could think of between the issues of bread and butter. You know, you either pay rent or you buy a camera. And I remember buying my first camera for 600 Rand, which could be roughly, or was $60 at that time, at a pawn shop. And it was a P30, it was Pentax P30T to be precise. An old, like, analog camera. For some people in the house who shoot analog, they could understand what I mean. 35 mil, they could understand what I mean. 35 mil, simple camera. I had a story to tell. I wanted to explore my realities at the time, which hasn't changed really up until now, yeah. And it was very, very late in life compared to the people who are at photo school right now, who are age 18, 19, 20. I had to work, like I worked for 10 years before I owned my own camera, yeah. So, and why I ventured into photography, I had a lot of issues, you know, personal issues, and it was either therapy or something else. And then photography just happened to be that healing, you know, tool for my own personal issues. And somebody suggested that you then, now that you have bought yourself a camera, go to photo school to formalize this and also to learn more about, you know, the technique of photography, etc. So I listened to that, and I went to Market Photo Workshop, which is a school of photography founded by David Goldblatt, who is, or who was, still is, the forefather of photography in South Africa, and I think he could be compared to the light. That light is a little bit harsh. He could be compared to Robert Frank and many other great men here in the US. So then later, I requested if he could become my mentor. Then the rest is history.
And the desire to be a visual activist.
Being a visual activist really speaks on, like, some people are visual artists, some people are visual something, some people are visual anthropologists, etc., etc. So speaking on visual activism per se, is speaking on how we could use photography for political agenda, how we could respond to certain issues that affect our communities or society. So my agenda happened to be the queer agenda, happened to be the gender politic, happened to be the politic of race, really. Speaking as a Black queer person born under apartheid South Africa, and also now looking at my environment and how I was willing to respond to that environment. I'm in South Africa, the year is 1996. The South African government is just like, the South African government has amended the Constitution of South Africa. A lot of people were interested at this time to study, you know, the queer South Africa. The scholars came to South Africa from different parts of the world. People had so much to say about us, but we didn't know exactly, as Black people underground, what was said and how it was articulated. So I took this as my responsibility to ensure that I documented tirelessly the community in which I was part, or the community that I'm part of, you know. And it is what I'm doing still today. And I haven't changed. It has been more than 20 years of hard work, working without resources, having this vision to say that we cannot be left out or we cannot be left behind simply because we are scared to take risk. So my take, was others have been like protesting and doing, my one has been to capture such movements. So when I speak of visual activism, I'm speaking of like being an activist, using the camera as a weapon for change and also to challenge whatever that is happening in our surroundings. There were a lot of protesters who were dealing with the issues that are still faced by LGBTQIA+ people. And also to say that there was like visual content accessible for some queer people, but it was in black, which then led to the leaders saying that being, you know, homosexual, being trans, being queer is an African. So now we have to challenge such notions or myths that says we don't exist when we are so much there. Yeah.
Your work is so important. It's so important. Let's talk about the work in the exhibition at SCAD. First, let's focus on the body of work, Faces and Phases. Please comment.
Faces and Phases is a body of work that features the portraits of trans men, that features trans women, some, and that features gender non-conforming people, lesbian women, bisexual women, who are 18 years of age and above. Don't photograph people in this series who are underage, because if they're underage, it means that they will need consent or parental guidance, you know. And people who are in the series have to be out and agree to be part of this series. A body of work that I started working on in 2000, and then in 2006, between 2006 and 2014, we had a lot of editing to be done. So, which led to the publication of this work with more than 500 portraits that we had to edit from. And the people that are in those, in the book or in the publication, some are still alive, some are not, are no longer there. At this period when the work was done, a young black lesbian who was out and open about her HIV status at that time came out. You know, she spoke as a poet, and she spoke as an activist, and spoke as a young feminist, and passed on at the age of 27. So I just thought to myself that the US has one of the best poets of our times, and that is Audre Lorde. So I'll speak of Audre Lorde as present. So, and then to myself, I'm saying, there are so many Audre Lordes of our time, but they are not documented in history, simply because maybe people, they don't know how to do that, or maybe people do not have resources, or maybe people are scared to do that. So I wanted to make sure that I pay tribute to this dear friend and fellow activist and a colleague. So that beginning of this series, before publication, happened a year before she died. And she penned a beautiful piece that's called Remember Me When I'm Gone, in which she came out multiple times about what she went through. Her sufferings and all are in that book or in that piece. So the face that I'm speaking about in the project is the portrait itself, the face of a person, what you see as you approach the person in whatever situation. The gaze, you know, and how the people are looking back at you was a way in which I wanted to challenge the viewer who was looking, or the people who are looking, to question themselves, to question the positions of the people that they are looking at, and also wonder or to dialogue around the existence of these black queer persons in the pictures. So it's happened to be one of the most important publications of our times. Simple, faces and phases, 8-day period, straight, non-stop, shooting in different townships, where we barely, see images of ourselves in like mainstream magazine, which is one other thing that I needed to challenge, to say that who get to be published, who get to be seen in this way without violence being, quoted as part of that visual narrative. So that's it.
And how does that body of work relate to the series Brave Beauties?
They're two different bodies of work. Brave Beauties features mainly former beauty queens, mostly transgendered women, black from different spaces, different townships, different zones of South Africa. I just thought to myself that if South Africa has missed South Africa, like our countries have missed this and that, all these beauties, they long to be seen and heard and willingly to share their stories, but there's never any space for them to share such stories. So then I took on that responsibility again and documented tirelessly the trans women in my series. And some of them, I've worked with them for more than 10 years, for more than 15 years, and we're still connected somehow. It was a way in which I wanted to recognize and respect the presence of trans women, like how I do with other human beings featuring in the work that I do.
Let's next discuss Hail the Dark Lioness. This is probably the series of work that you're most known for.
Hail the Dark Lioness, it's basically Somnyama Ngonyama. Maybe you didn't want to say that.
Say that again?
Somnyama Ngonyama.
Yes, I didn't know how to say that.
I see, that's when language becomes complicated. Somnyama Ngonyama is in Zulu, and Somnyama means the dark one. And when you say Somnyama, you are recognizing the beauty of the black person next to you. So it was a way in which I wanted to just emphasize that beautiful black person that I know, who happened to be me. At the same time, paying homage to my mom, who worked as a domestic worker for more than 42 years. Domestic work is work. And we are shaped by women who are doing domestic work, who clean people's homes, who raise other people's children. That's a South African reality now and before. So I'm raised by that person who hardly spent time with us as a children because she had to fend for us and support us, as her own children. My mom was a single parent. My father died when I was a couple of months, and I needed to produce images that spoke to this group of people, and it meant that I had to start at home with my mother. So I produced images as myself, reenacting scenes, me as my mom, which is impossible, but I tried. And wherever I go, like I'm at SCAD now, we just received this award with my mom. It's just an imagination of some sort, but to say that we come from somewhere in as much as we identify differently, and we have to regard and respect and recognize the actual source, our origins, and those mothers who never traveled beyond, 600 kilometers away from their homes or their houses. So I could say I'm a mom in different ways, Yeah. So I'm that person, moving alongside with her, giving praises to her as a person, as also my mother, as my blood, in a way, and hoping that other people who photograph other human beings could realize where they come from, especially when people are not coming from privileged spaces, but the spaces in which other people find it shameful to, to speak of. I come from the township, from poor background, had to work hard to be here, to say what I'm saying, and also taking note of who made me become the person that I am. That's my mom. So in other situations, some parents, they divorce their children simply because of how they express themselves. She was the most welcoming person and accepted me as I am. And there's just no way that I could speak without recognizing that source, that person, and where I come. So I started working on this project, Somnyama, in 2012 when I was on residency at Civitella Raineri in Italy, in Umbria, or Umbertide to be precise. And because I was away from people that I usually photograph, and I was with myself, I started shooting me.
I was wondering about that.
Within those corners. And the project was meant to be for 365 days. I wanted to photograph myself on a daily basis until the end. Take, for instance, a person just enrolled at SCAD, and they tell themselves that I will photograph myself until I finish my degree at SCAD. It was the type of situation that happened. But due to travel and jet lag and exhaustion and other disturbances, I ended up not doing my 365, which then became 12 years of this project. First publication came out in 2018, and I work with Aperture. And then the second publication came out in 2024, still an Aperture volume. And my aim is to do 5 volumes with the aim of, I'm basically saying it's possible. We could educate with our own bodies. We could become own subjects in as much as we're interested in photographing other people who define what we do, basically.
How do you think about black and white as both a photographic tool, but also related to ideas of identity?
Do you want to hear about black and white film? Do you want to hear about black and white race? You want to talk about, or you want to hear about the complexities of being?
The complexities of being.
Okay, I'll simplify it if I can. It's complicated-ish, because I come from a space that was divided, that is still divided somehow, When you think of like black and white photography, I think of like the technical, part of things, of why I use black and white photography. Maybe it's because I'm running away from the truth, or maybe I'm avoiding dealing with this harsh subject matter. Maybe I want to think that it's over with racism. But maybe I want to say that I use black and white simply because the inventions of the inventors of photography failed to do justice to black skin. Hence, it's easy to deal with black and white photography in this way. Early photography really didn't master color when it comes to black and white photographies. They failed completely, which then led to the politics of race or issue of politics to say, how dare do you present people like this, like muddy faces, ugly, and all the distortion. So I use black and white photography for its timeless feel, for its beauty, and also texture. For some people who are using analog in the house, they will tell you the processes of like being in the dark room and waiting, that anticipation of coming out with this beautiful image in black and white. Then the decision that I make of who I shoot and how I photograph those people and why this black and white. And in my headspace, I want to say that we've been here before, and being here before was presented in black and white. than in color. Until recently, there's people like post-wars, maybe around 19-something or late 1880 and so, in which people started like documenting in color. But to say, was it good enough for black skin? Maybe not so. And why are we stuck with this black and white? It's because we want to present ourselves this way, yeah, which might not be beautiful for other people.
How has your practice changed over the years? And can you comment about the sculptural work you're doing now?
A whole lot that I've done is known, under the banner of photography or photography faculty on its own, teaching with photography, sharing photo skills, etc. But then you want to grow as a person. You don't want to be known as just one person or one thing, I just wanted to expand my practice, to learn from other people, to learn other mediums, also to learn other, skills. Because with the sculpture, there's a whole lot to think of. It's not a simple skill, You have to think through, and also there are a lot of collaborators involved as part of that particular piece, yeah? Which, is easy for one if you open to collaborations. I've done beadworks, which is interesting on its own because I wanted people to see or to look at images differently, to look at photography transformed into something else, not just one way, Like right now presented here at SCAD are light boxes, which I never done before, but then it speaks on also on a way in which we look at the image and also engaging with the viewers who look at that image, depending on what field or departments they're in. For instance, if you are interested in lighting and photography, the light boxes, they make sense, If you are interested in sculpting, photography, it makes sense, because the sculpture piece that we have here is photographed with a 3D camera, and then the mold was made, etc., So there's a lot of other materials involved, to come up with that. But why the sculptures? Why the light boxes? I simply wanted to, to mature as an artist or as a person who's in the arts, to expand my practice and also to have different conversations with different practitioners. Yeah.
Coming from South Africa, what is your definition of youth? And what power do they have compared to the past?
I try to come up with like a simple way of defining what youth is. Because I'm born in South Africa, I come from that space. There is a youth of 76, under this high state of emergency. I'll say first, there's a youth of 1966, which kind of like the youth of the civil movements and so on. Then there's a youth of 76, which dealt with the political issue of education, in which people protested against the medium of instruction back then, a lot of lives lost. And that youth now is in their 60s. Then we have the youth of like the 80s, late 80s, during the transformation before the release of President Nelson Mandela. So that youth spoke on a different kind of politics, the politics of HIV and AIDS. Then we have the youth of 96, etc. So the youth now of today, that definition depends. In South Africa, you're youth until you're age 34. From 18 to 34. Why? Because the system has not been kind to the youth of South Africa, especially the minority groups. Minority, speaking on the colored community, the black community, maybe the Indian community. And then why this bracket matter? Depends. How the apartheid government wasted our time, delayed so many things, deprived people their right to land, their right to proper education, their right to access to medicine, etc. That's what led to this youth of South Africa being delayed in terms of the brackets, which is not the same like maybe the American youth, the European youth, where you are youth until you are age 28 or you are youth until 30. It's about politic, you know, a politic of existence, a politic of being under-resourced, of being displaced, and a politic that does not, you know, bring joy into your future, etc. So that politic speak of that youth, of like the politic, the economics, you know, the social and the technological youth of today, which is a youth that is better resourced, but shaped by the existence of the past, which was harsh because they become the generations of the youth of yesteryear or of the youth of 76 or youth of 66. So which means that when I speak of a South African youth, it goes beyond the brackets, where I'm not looking at the age per se, but I'm looking at people who were delayed and people who were deprived of their right to existence or to anything. So to say that you have an education system that says black people will fail at this period in order for them not to have employment in future, then as you deal with these inequalities, it then leads to the high crime rates that exist because you have those who have access and those who do not have access. Then people are displaced, and then people are complaining that there's high crime at these places, but then it's the system that reproduces this social ill. So when I speak of youth of South Africa, it's just beyond this age 34. It could be any other person who might not have had, you know, their right at the right time. So a system of filth, a system that still needs to be dealt with, because if we keep on doing things this way, we'll never get anywhere as a people in general, which then leads to this visual activism, because one has to continue to document these realities.
This is amazing. Of course, I could talk to you for hours on end. One last question. I wish it wasn't the last question, but if you weren't a visual activist, what other career path do you think you would have chosen?
I'll be a teacher if I wasn't full-time, but then I think it connects somehow, because then I'll still be dealing with the certain issues or topics, you know, if there are students or learners at school who need to have their voices heard, I'll be working with the parents or guidance in those spaces to ensure that the child lives a better life than mine, you know. A child is given an opportunity to express themselves and create the environment, become that healthy space where people are free to be who they are, or where children are free to be children, you know. So to teach the children that persecution is real and they should not allow anyone to violate them or to ill-treat them. And this is the information that we need to share, because it is not right what is happening out there, you know. Yeah.
We can learn so much from you.